You're watching CBS and Mountain News coverage of Attack on America. Now from the studios of WYMT TV in Hazard, here's Tony Turner and Jill Hammond.
Terrorism rocks the country. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tony Turner.
And I'm Jill Hammond.
Thank you for joining us for the special edition of Mountain News at 6 o'clock. We will rejoin CBS News for more coverage of today's events. Right now, we want to bring you up to date along with the reaction from around Kentucky. The terrorist attack on America certainly shaken Americans and the world. Two hijacked airliners slammed into the World Trade Center in New York.
That was followed by a deadly attack on the Pentagon. We begin our coverage tonight from those two cities, starting with Gretchen Carlson in New York.
We are just a mile away from the site of where the World Trade Center buildings used to stand.
September 11th, 2001, I was here at Perry County Central High School. I was in PE class. That was when Coach Al Holland was the PE teacher at the time, and he. I remember we were late, getting roll taken, getting things started. We were sitting on the bleachers, kind of just waiting around, and he pops out and says, almost kind of like it wasn't that big of a deal at the time. He says, "Did you guys hear about these planes that's crashing these buildings in New York?" And he really didn't know what had happened yet. We were just kind of, it was just kind of, we went about our business. But then when we got to our other classes, we started to realize a second plane hit, and we started to realize the gravity of what was going on.
This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way!
Well, I was sitting in the classroom that morning, JROTC. In fact, I think I had planning period that morning. I remember exactly what went on. And then I remember talking to the classes later on and telling them how 9/11 will reach out and touch Hazard, Kentucky. And the following year or so, our Kentucky National Guard, our local Kentucky National Guard, deployed to Iraq. So that's what and then finally after that, then I remember the following year, then the JROTC program had a big ceremony out in front for the first anniversary of 9/11.
I was a freshman here at Perry Central. It was a scary day. I was in Mr. Jeff Campbell's civics class, and I remember watching it on TV. We saw the other plane hit. It was just a weird, scary day.
I thought it was the third plane though.
No, the third plane. The whole top came off.
And then
I just remember that I was at Robinson Elementary. I was in Miss Collins's math class, and I was in about 7th grade, I think, and we had people kind of walking back and forth in the hallway. We knew something was up, and then they came in and told us, and we turned the TV on and watched the news. And, I just remember being kind of scared and not really understanding it a whole lot.
I remember getting the email that the Twin Towers was under attack. I remember turning my TV on and sitting with my class and watching the horror that unfolded. We actually were watching it live when the towers fell. I can remember going home that night, and my oldest daughter wasn't even a year old, and how that we brought her into a world that was full of terror and a world full of hate, and hope that we as adults and now as students can work to end that hate. But my memory of 9/11 will always, till the day I die, involve Perry County Central High School, because for me and a lot of other people, that was where it unfolded.
What I remember most about 9/11 is how scared everyone was. Here in Eastern Kentucky, we didn't really know a lot about what was going on. It was before social media. It was before, actually I was at a school at that time that we didn't even have cable TV. Yes, there was cable TV, I'm not that old. but we did not have access. So the only information that we were able to get at that point was information that we were hearing from the radio. I remember going into the office and the principal saying that someone had flown a plane into the Capitol building, but we didn't know if that meant the Capitol building or the Capitol building in Kentucky. We were really confused because, like I said, we didn't have access to as much media as what we have now, which makes me interested kind of to see what the differences would be. But I remember I had a doctor's appointment that day, and when we were going to Whitesburg to the doctor's appointment, the gas stations, there would be like 30 cars lined up because people they were totally convinced that they were not going to be able to get groceries, they were not going to be able to get supplies that they needed, that the world was going to war. And gas was a big one because they thought transportation would be closed down. That's one thing that I remember. Another thing I remember is that is the day that a man got injured at Pine Branch. They had to ask for special permission to fly him out from Chavez to a hospital. I'm not sure what hospital he went to, but they had to get permission from the government to fly him out. I think he lost, maybe they had to amputate one leg or maybe both, but I remember that being such a big deal because of all the places in America that had to ask for permission, it was just in Hazard, Kentucky, so that a plane could, I guess it was a helicopter, could fly out of. But the one thing that I remember the most about 9/11 is the fear.